Township, and welcome to 2025. Just before I call the meeting to order, I just wanted to say that we have a little wonderful year in front of us this year. And even though Calvin is a small township, it requires the same kind of governance that even a large municipality has trouble coping with. And as a result, they have to do budgeting, taxation, asset management, roads, public works, with a huge, big staff. Here in Calvin, we have to do it with a much smaller staff. And in 2023, we hired Donna as our CAO, Chief Administrative Officer, and she was given the task of finding staff to help the municipality get back on track. I have full confidence in Donna. And I believe that she's the right person for the job to get things organized and get things done in the township. She had to create job descriptions, and at the same time, she had to comply with government regulations imposed on the municipality. And it was during this gargantuan task that she also had to go back and fix many problems that lingered from 2021 and 2022. So it was a double sorted job. So great job. And moving forward, let's see it even better. I also should mention that Donna is the last person for the complaints that come into the township. So, you know, the old expression, the buck stops here. So I'm sure sometimes it feels like working at a Walmart returns desk on Boxing Day, because it's you got to do all the other work, plus you got to deal with that. Our staff now is very strong. Trish Arujo is with us here tonight, and she's officially our administrative assistant, but things will likely change soon. She has a long list of tasks and has proven herself very competent over the last while, and we're lucky to have her here. And Sylvia has just been hired at the township, Sylvia Ross. She comes with a wealth of experience and will be very helpful for the administration going forward. So when someone at the township calls in, they're probably going to hear Sylvia's voice answering the phone. Another recent hire was Ann Carr, who is now our Public Works Director. We heard Ann speak a number of times in council meetings authoritatively on roads, planning, and we're all excited about the contribution she's going to make to the township.
Thank you.
Public Works is responsible for, among other things, roads, landfill, cemetery, landfill operations. And Ann has experience in all these areas, but she's also knowledgeable in zoning and planning and will no doubt be invaluable in the coming years. Our roads department has been making wonderful improvements in the Calvin Road network. And at this time of year especially, we have to thank Brandon, Albert, and Roger for getting those roads cleaned up and plowed and letting everyone get to work safely and get their children to school safely in the morning. In Public Works, we also have Jacob. He's a jack of all trades and he's doing all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, there's Danielle, a person with many skills, Bradley, and our newest hire, Paul, all working very hard to make the township a better place. Shane Conrad is our CBO, the Chief Building Official, and he's not a full-time Calvin employee, but he can be reached by email throughout the week, and he's in the office every Wednesday to assist everyone with inquiries about building permits. And I've heard a number of positive comments about the way Shane conducts his inspections. And who can forget the fire department? Marielle Resch is the chief. Jordan Wally is the deputy. And the department is full of dedicated volunteers who work to make the township safer and less flammable. And of course, we can appreciate the job that they do when you look at what's going on in the southern United States and California right now. I've heard from a number of firefighters that morale is good and strong. And I should note that the fire chief's article and resolution at the end of last year about compensation for firefighters has gotten traction across the province and has been drawing some attention back to Calvin. And we can't forget about our council, Robert Latimer, who brings his business acumen to the the table, Bill Morton with his hands-on and volunteer approach to making things better in the township. John Manson keeping us all human with a light touch of financial intelligence. And then there's Dean Grant, always making us think creative. So it's going to be a good 2025, and I just wanted to acknowledge everyone in the township. I hope I didn't miss anyone.
I don't think you did. Great roundup for a wonderful team that we do have today. I am so very pleased with the staff core that we have, and I have to say that most days, most people are 110% happy to be here.
Right on. That's what I like to hear. So I would like to call this meeting to order. I need a mover and a seconder. Okay, Bill Morton and John Manson. Therefore be resolved that this December the 10th, 2025 regular meeting of council has been called to order now at 6:06, and everyone is here in attendance. We have full quorum. Approval of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder. Do we need to vote on?
The way we write the way we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so then all those in favor of opening the session? And that motion is carried. Approval of the agenda is the next item on the agenda. Now therefore, can I get a mover and a seconder for approving the agenda? Okay, so that's Bill Morton and John Manson. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation Municipality of Calvin hereby approves the agenda as circulated. All in favor? I am as well. So that motion is carried. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? None? Then we'll move on to the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Just a mover and a seconder, please. Bill Morton and Robert Latimer. Now therefore be resolved that the minutes for the regular council meeting of December the 10th, 2024 be approved as presented and circulated. Is there any discussion or comment? None? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Delegations to council, we have none. Business arising from previous council meetings. The first one is the mayor's correspondence on the shared CEMC training. Just a mover and a seconder to discuss that. John Manson and Robert Latimer. Now therefore be it resolved that the council for the municipality of Calvin receives and accepts the mayor's correspondence to Mattawa Mayor Peter Murphy dated December the 12th and resolves that no further action is required. Any discussion? None? All right, so all those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and it was a long one today. We're going to talk about a resolution to see if anything should be moved forward. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor John Manson and Councillor Bill Morton. Are there any items that anyone wants to move forward? Yes, Councillor Latimer.
7.5 and 7.2. 7.5 is the Municipal Affairs proposed amendments to the Municipal Accountability Act. I think it's on there about 3 times from different directions. And the other one is 7.2 is DNSSAB housing targets, Calvin. I read through that and not quite sure what they were trying to say or what the purpose of that was or who they are. But yeah, I think the definitely the 7.5 is something that we need to pay attention to. We'll probably get lots of information on it going forward.
Yeah, please.
So DNSSAB is District Benefiting Social Services Administration Board.
Okay.
And just the housing targets, there's some funding that's out there for new builds, or new builds or renovations to homes in order to create more space for people to bring elderly people, their children in to live in the homes. And each municipality across Ontario has been given an allotment of the kind of funding, the amount of funding that's out there for each municipality. District of Nipissing Social Services Administration Board, as with all other social services admin boards, we're tasked with doing the study and developing the targets for the funding that would be available across the province of Ontario. So for us, the Nipissing Social Services Administration Board has set the target for Calvin, and what they're telling us is that in the funding that's available, this is what their study is in demand in Calvin, and how much stock and what kind of funding would be available, how much funding if people were to approach the administration board in order to take advantage of that funding that's available for that purpose of extra space in your existing home to accommodate more people outside of your immediate family.
Okay,
help?
thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Want to bring it down, or is that all that you really were looking for?
No, I think it's probably something that we should follow up with on the funding side and what details on it, but not right now, of course, but for the future.
They have promoted it, and we've also put it on our site at one point, promoting the availability of the funding. So it's in the news everywhere. Like, I don't know if you want to bring them to.
So just a question. So this would be if I wanted to build something attached to my home to house somebody who needed, it was under housed, I guess, I don't know if that's a word or not, but is that what it's for?
It is what it's for. Affordable housing.
Okay.
We could ask DSAB to actually come to speak. They originally, they intended to, and they never could meet our meeting schedule. So they wanted to come to, since I think maybe August, and they were waiting for the results of the study. Agenda for October, for November, for December, and then they just stopped trying.
I think it'd be worthwhile. I think it'd be worthwhile for the residents of Calvin to be aware of that this is available. And
I'd say that we should bring the next meeting to discuss setting up a meeting with DSAB for further explanation.
Okay.
All right, so let's do that.
okay, thank you.
And are there any other items that need to be brought forward?
7.5.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, what do you want to do with 7.5? I agree.
Bring it down.
Oh, yes?
Well, it's something we have, 7.5, as Councillor Latimer mentioned, it's something we have to monitor because we already have a code of conduct. Their code of conduct, our code of conduct has to be at least to that level of whatever the provincial legislation is going to be. We can probably be beyond their legislation, but we cannot be less than, so we'll have to monitor that as it comes through legislation in the provincial government.
So you're saying you want to bring back 7.5 to discuss the implications for our code of conduct?
It's not it hasn't been legislated yet, but it's coming. It's being presented for legislation, and as Councillor Morton said, plus the role of the Integrity Commissioner will be enhanced, from what I gather from reading these press releases. Yeah, we really need to pay attention to it as it's, approved in Parliament.
All right, so we have 7.2 and 7.5. I just would like to mention, if no one has any other items they want to bring forward, I don't want to bring anything else forward other than what you've just discussed. But I should mention that there are a lot of items in this consent agenda. And I really encourage the public to look through these, because a lot of these reports are from levies from the DSAB, North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, MPAC, and of course, the operation of the township has to levy payments, and it's helpful to know where. So, I mean, I don't think we need to bring it directly into council, because all you're doing is saying, well, here it is here, and we're looking at it again, but I do encourage people to read. There's also, just a personal note is, 712, is just a follow-up saying that the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has picked up Calvin's, bylaw on the forest, fire bombers. And, that means that it's not just an Ontario, bylaw, it's gone across the nation now. So that's a little bit of a kudos for Calvin Township, if you will. So are there no other items to bring forward? None? None? All right, so then we'll vote on the issue. Did I get a mover and a seconder for that?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Manson and Morrison.
Okay, so now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby receive the consent agenda items as presented and move the following for discussion to the next meeting. Item 7.2, DNSSAB housing targets for Calvin, and 7.5 Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing proposed amendments to the Municipal Accounting Act of 2024. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is administrative matters, council activities promoting development in Calvin Township, resolution number to be determined. This has been amended, so I have brought forth an amendment. You all have copies of the amendment. So before we even move, well, I guess I have to get a move in a seconder on the original item. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Where you moved it.
Oh, I moved it, yes. So a seconder. Okay, Councillor Morton. Before we vote on the issue, I'm proposing an amendment, and you have copies of the amendment in front of you. So what we're doing right now is moving on the amendment. So I can move the amendment. So I'll move the amendment. And I need a seconder for, okay, it's Councillor Manson. The amendment, and I'll just read it quickly, whereas there is an interest expressed in by council members to work towards development in Calvin Township, and whereas by mid-2024, council members elected to pause work on the strategic plan due to my absence, and whereas in section 226.1 of the Municipal Act, it states that the mayor's responsibility is to promote public involvement in the municipality's activities, and whereas it has been brought to the mayor's attention that there's a lack of understanding among some residents and council members regarding the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, the building code, and severances, it is therefore resolved that staff invite subject matter experts to upcoming council members to inform council and the public about key points related to the building code, property assessment, zoning, and severances. And that the budget allocation for these experts to present to council at public meetings is up to $250 per meeting, with further amounts or any further amounts approved on a case-by-case basis. And it is further resolved that staff be requested to resume the strategic planning process as quickly as possible and to set up a strategic planning meeting and engage both the public and council and work towards developing a goal and direction for future planning. So the first vote here is just to accept the amendment. It's not about the amendment. So I just need a vote to accept this as an amendment. All in favor? Okay, so the amendment is accepted. So now, without me reading it all again, I need a mover to accept a seconder to.
You already have.
Well, no, now we're talking about the amended motion. So I need a mover and a seconder. So it's John Manson and Dean Grant. So now we're talking about the motion itself. Any discussion on the motion? Yes.
Well,
John Manson.
I think that all sounds excellent. It almost sounds like we're casting out some good New Year's resolutions or getting ready to find out what they are anyway. So I think that's an excellent Well, but thank you.
All right. Any other comment?
Are we discussing the amended motion or are we discussing what was previously in our folder? I'm a little,
We are discussing, already approved and accepted the amended motion. So that defeats the original motion because we've
Oh.
accepted. So
okay,
now we're discussing this motion. Okay,
Okay. I got it.
so Councillor Morton,
Is it worth considering putting this to a committee for like a development committee?
council feels it is. Certainly.
Isn't that what the strategic planning exercise? That would be the first step, I think, or maybe that's the committee that you're speaking of. I don't know. What would the committee do?
Well, just to refresh everybody's memory, just before I went into the hospital for surgery, we had a meeting to sort of get on board, and Donna had set that up to start the strategic planning process. And I was going to be gone, and council said, let's put it on hold for a number of months. And we did. So all I'm suggesting here now is that we move forward one way or another. And if council wants to instruct staff in a specific way as to how we move forward, that's fine. But all I'm saying here is, let's move forward. Donna, do you have any comments?
I just want some clear direction about what you are asking me to do, because as you said initially, it was my idea to bring you together to inform you about what the strategic planning process looks like at the start. This is what it is, this is what it isn't, this is how council is involved, this is when council is not involved, it's how we involve the public. It's about, we spent a day doing that, and that was the end of everything.
Right.
So now it's about moving forward. So for me, as with your questions, I also want to know if you're saying let's pull the committee back together, or it is very ambiguous to me what you mean. Are we pulling the committee together to drive the process, or is staff moving forward with the process? So I'd like some clear direction on what the motion means.
And my thoughts on the committee thing is that staff would normally approach some of these agencies, and I think members of council were going to do that. So then you'd have to create a committee so that you'd avoid the conflict of municipal act.
I don't understand that process though. That
It
wasn't what
created-
we learned.
No,
Wasn't
some of the discussions we had was to approach people, experts in their field, about how to create development in our community.
so
Instead of empowering or instructing staff to go out and approach these people, there was some
I don't-
discussion about
yeah.
members of council doing this.
I don't recall that. That's part of the mayor's motion that he asked me. I don't recall that because I would have said that that's not the role of council.
That's why I said if we created a committee that goes around that obstruction of the role of council.
I think, sorry but my original idea was that council would do some of this work individually. The problem was that you're setting people out into the municipality and nobody's aware of what anybody else is doing.
That's why you'd have to have a committee.
And so even before you have that committee, I think that what we have to do is, as Donna said, when we met before, like in this spring,
Start planning.
yeah.
Mother's Day weekend, you remember the cut hand?
Oh, yes, Mother's Day weekend. I think that what we have to do is we have to decide what the future has to be. So, and that would involve engagement with the public. And that shouldn't be individual council members talking to the public about what they think, because how can they poll all of the public? So that's the idea of this strat planning. Am I correct?
Yeah, to set the stage for how are we moving forward with bringing to council what community, council, staff together would say that objectives are of the next 5-10 years. From there, we design who does what, when, and how. But what you're suggesting is that we've already decided we want development, and then everybody goes individually out there and starts developing, which is not, we haven't.
We haven't decided. I was-
Yeah, could I just jump in the middle of this? I think we should, as Mayor Richards suggested, we should get back to the strat plan. And then from there, it goes to the, from what I understood from the first meeting is then the public gets involved. What does the public want? What do the residents of Calvin want? And then whatever the process is, Donna, I'm not sure, but I really think that getting back on track with the strat plan is the first step.
Right. And that's what this resolution is stating.
Yeah.
That we get back on track with the strat plan.
And the committee was essentially committee of the whole. We were calling it strategic planning committee and,
Right.
you know, to inform council about that process and to have them involved in making sure everybody understands where we're going, what we're doing, who's doing what.
We're getting educated on how to develop a strat plan because it seemed like we all came with our own idea what that looked like, but obviously we need some education on it.
Councilor Grant.
I just want to make a comment. I agree with the motion. I think I'd first like to say I appreciate strategic planning. I'm actually a big fan. We've had some meetings, and I appreciate strategic planning. I appreciate policy, procedure, bylaw. And I think it's all incredibly important and necessary to move forward in that direction. I also appreciate that we are, as councilors, we're looking at these budgets, and I'll speak for myself, but I'm looking at a municipal budget. I'm looking at these costs that are likely coming, or Castle Home, various costs that are gonna basically, we must grow to offset the costs, or we're gonna have to slash services. So it seems like there has to be a direction to go, and so I understand the strat plan and all that's part of that, but I also feel like government can spend 2-3 years planning and no shovel ever hits the ground, right? So I hope that we can, yes, continue with strategic plan and moving forward, but also at the same time be able to promote our township and do maybe some best practices, some little offshoot things on severances and some of these other things. So at the same time as, yes, creating a direction is important, we're also going to be promoting some actual development now, not 3-4 years from now, and that's just my kind of take on it. So it's not that I don't believe anybody's wrong in their approach. I think the strat plan is fantastic. But at the same time, we're able to maybe bring some experts in or things, and we could, discuss some basic things about planning and development. And, I'm fielding questions all the time from residents, and it's be great to have good answers, right? Just truthful, good answers. And, if someone wants to come develop in Calvin, I think we got to make it clear that we're open to that. Not now. The strat plan's great, but to me anyways, as a counselor, it's obvious that we need some development.
I may have muddied the water a little bit by putting 2 resolutions.
I think it's
one.
possible you did, but
Yeah.
I just want to
I
lay
put
out
2 resolutions into one, and one is that we should go ahead with the strat plan and have staff set that up with a committee of the whole. Is that correct? Yeah. The second part is that we need to get some information out to the public and councilors about things like severances and how they have to be done,
Who do you call?
and who do you call to do that? As far as what the severances are, well, maybe it's a tough one.
And it's not an answer that council should be giving. You should be referring them to the staff who know the answer.
Right.
I think it's important that we know what the residents of Calvin want rather than tell them what they want. And the
Yeah.
strat plan involves public participation. We listen. And that's really our job as council and head of council, is to do what these people who voted us and make the best business decisions for them and for us as taxpayers as well. Anyways, that's I'm going to just stop talking now, and I agree with your amendment, and I think personally that's the route to go.
only because today, today I think you finished this revised and I received it and we. With the mayor's in the same. So about more than he has written, you. Talk about mini session on the building code act. I don't know who he would do that, and building code is a thick, but for him to come and inform council about information and questions you might have about CBOs, about the building code, about municipal property assessment, I'll invite MPAC in. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the expert who can answer the questions, nor is that your role, but it does mean that you'll be better informed.
Right, and I think that was just the goal, is to be better informed.
And this will start as soon as I can get people on the agenda.
Right. Any other questions, comments? Oh, sorry.
Well, I do think that, echoing similar thoughts here, that the strat plan is necessary. But at the same time, we do need to grow our budget's growing, so we need to grow the revenue. And there's really one big way to do that, and that's assessment values. They grow a little bit by themselves, but we can encourage that by making Calvin a place that's open for business to, I took some notes on that piece of funding for affordable housing units. Doesn't make super big assessments, but fulfills a community role. And I think that's really, really interesting. But if someone's got a 100-acre lot and they sever, and a developer can put in a little community in their little subdivision, that's a huge assessment boost. So I think that we need to use our collective wit and skills with staff and council to say, we have to grow this town and figure out intelligent ways to do that quickly. And the strat plan will address things more on, I think, the medium and long term and point to some really good direction for the town over time. But the bills are climbing, and I think it's really important that development should be a huge priority.
All right, and that is something that we can discuss for going forward, because if you remember, Donna said that the strat plan would involve council and the public. So there is council input
Input into the direction.
into the direction. That's correct. Yes. So the direction being, John saying that he would like to move the direction in a certain way, will eventually be his input. Dean might say he wants to see everything kept rural, and that would be his direction, and then we have the direction of the council. Yeah, as a whole. All right, so if there's no further comments, I'll move this to a vote. All those in favor of the amended motion? Okay, that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item is the promotion of a deputy clerk. So may I have a mover in a second? Robert Latimer and Bill Morton. So welcome, Trish Russo. You get to take minutes on your own motions. Whereas Teresa Scrope, Deputy Clerk, resigned on October 29th, 2024, and whereas Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin previously agreed with the CAO recommendations to promote T. Arujo to from within a promotion consistent with both the municipality human resources policy and its collective agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby repeal bylaw 2023-042, a bylaw appointing Teresa Scrope as the deputy clerk, and enact bylaw number
Trish has the number.
01. A bylaw to appoint Trish Arujo as the deputy clerk. Discussion. None? Then I'll call this vote to call this to a vote. All those in favor? Oh, there you go. Congratulations. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Trish did say to me today that it was really great that she was able to, haven't you noticed that today? I'm so happy that that you're sending these to me because I've been taking care of it since October.
Next item on the agenda is 8.3, the Papineau Cameron Resolution. I have moved that, who's asked this to be brought forward. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Morton. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin supports the Corporation of the Township of Papineau Cameron's Resolution 2024-328, a resolution calling for amendments to the Ontario Building Code to include provisions for pre-approved housing plans specifically aimed at supporting low-income homeless individuals. And further, that a copy of this resolution accompanied by the referenced Cameron Papineau resolution be forwarded to all recipients mentioned in the Papineau Cameron resolution. Discussion. Councillor Manson.
I think it's excellent. It seems to be a little bit consistent with our previous discussion as well. And excellent for Mattawa Papineau to put that forward. It's, I think building code is super important for safety and all that building, but if we can get sometimes a simplified version is good and a lower cost version for simpler, more expedited builds while we have this homelessness that's at pretty record highs. So I think it's excellent.
Councillor Grant.
I think it's fantastic. They used to do this in agriculture. We had standardized plans for back when there was such thing as, small farm. There still is, but a lot of farmers are small farmers and they had to move forward. I'd just like to say, that's why I love history too, is, you go back in history. I mean, it was, you just built a house. That's what you had to do. And then you had something for your family and it was great. And now we've got to the point where we've made so much progress. Let's say progress with quotations that, you gotta have $500,000 in the bank and you gotta jump through, you gotta be a legal consultant to build a house now. And so we need to maybe deprogress some of these building procedures and some of these building regulations so that people can, we don't have to house them as a government. Those house themselves if they can do it.
Right.
We just need to make it more reasonable for people to develop and build. And so anyway, I support Papineau's plan. It's very logical to have some of these standard design plans and it's a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Any other comments or questions? All right, so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? That is carried unanimously. I'm in favor as well. 8.4 CAO report fire protection grant results. Mover and a seconder to discuss this issue. Councillor Morton, Councillor Manson. This is a CAO report rather than be just reading the resolution. Did you want to say anything on this?
Nope, the report's pretty self-explanatory. There was a request out or an invitation to submit applications for funding for up to $25,000. Most did not even come close to seeing that amount of money. And we as not unlike neighboring municipalities surrounding us of our size are a little bigger, have roughly $1,000 approved.
All right, so whereas the municipality of Calvin applied for funding to the Ontario government for the purpose of purchasing new bunker gear, and whereas the Ontario government has notified the municipality of its desire to enter into a Transfer Ontario payment agreement with the municipality for a total of $8,230.45 for this purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation and Municipality of Calvin hereby adopts the attached bylaw number 2002.
Yes.
To authorize the municipality to enter into a funding agreement with His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal in accordance with the terms and conditions outlined in this agreement. And that the mayor and or deputy mayor and chief administrative officer are authorized to execute the funding agreement on behalf of the municipality. And further, that the council directs staff to take all necessary steps to implement the terms of the funding agreement and to ensure compliance with conditions outlined therein. And further, that if permitted by the fire marshal's office, grant funds offset the cost of the recent bunker gear purchases. And further, that this resolution and its bylaw shall take effect immediately upon adoption. Questions or comments? None? Call this to a vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. I am in favor as well. So here. The next item on the agenda is a temporary borrowing bylaw. I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Latimer, Councillor Manson. Councillor Latimer. Councillor Manson. I remember the first time I saw this bylaw when you just come into office, I was scared to death. What do you mean we have to borrow all this money? Whereas the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001 C25 section 407 is amended from time to time provides authority for a municipality to authorize the treasurer to borrow from time to time such sums as council considers necessary to meet until taxes are collected and other revenues are received the current expenditure of the municipality for the year. And whereas the total amount which may be borrowed from all sources at any one time to meet the current expenditures of the municipality, except with the approval of the Ontario Land Tribunal, is limited by section 407 of the Municipal Act of 2001. Should the council for the corporation of municipality of Calvin deem it necessary to borrow funds to meet obligations until taxes are collected and other revenues are received, therefore, be it resolved that the council hereby approves this 2025 bylaw, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and CEO clerk treasurer to borrow, sign and apply payments on behalf of the municipality of the corporation of the municipality of Calvin from time to time as a way, by way as specifically indicated in the 2025 borrowing bylaw. Discussion? None? All right, I'll call this to a vote. All in favor? And that motion, I'm in favor as well, is carried. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent report, closure and sale of original shoreline road allowances by bylaw resolution number. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Latimer, Councillor Morton. Whereas there is no current policy bylaw that sets out the procedures to sell original road allowances, and now therefore be it resolved that the council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin hereby receives and accepts the public works superintendent report recommending repealing bylaw 2011-15 and introducing bylaw 2025 number 4. A bylaw to consolidate the adoption of policies and procedures for the closure and sale of original shoreline or road allowances. Further, that until such time as the fees and charges bylaw is reviewed in 2025, the fee structure within related to this bylaw remain at $250 for the application of the cost or 41 cents per square meter or $250, whichever is greater. And further, that this resolution and its related bylaws shall take effect immediately upon adoption. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I just want to say that there was already a policy for shoreline road allowance. I know that we often have difficulty understanding what kind of a road we're talking about. So a shoreline road allowance. Way back, 100 years ago, the Crown made road allowances, so they kept all the road allowances around lakes, thinking that they would be developed for logging. They also kept the original road allowances through the 100-acre parcels of lands that you'll see within our mapping systems. So there was really no procedure for the sale of the unopened road allowances that run through the concessions. Therefore, the policy that we did have for shoreline road allowance sales is very equal to the sale of a road allowance.
Right.
So there's an application, you have to get permission. Well, that's not permission. You have to notify the neighboring properties beside you so that they're aware that you have interest in purchasing the land. Like any planning or development procedure, there's a notice period. All that gets sent to a lawyer. It's not an overnight thing that happens. The property has to be severed, and the severance has to be included in the property, and the municipality has to create a bylaw to stop up and close the road, which is all done through legal. Basically, we would only be accepting an application. We would review it, and in principle, the council would approve it. That's when there's a deposit made into the legal office, and then our hands are wiped clean of it until the bylaw is brought back to council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good report. Any questions or discussion?
Yes, I have a question. We have many bylaws that probably need to be updated and fixed. And why this particular one? What motivates how did this one get to the top of the list, or why is it being brought forward?
When we did the zoning amendment for the, to not permit any more, road use agreements, we had no mechanism in place that would allow residents to be able to purchase the road instead of offering a road use agreement. So this, gives the capability for our residents that want to develop, they can come in, they can ask, can we purchase the road allowance? And then it would be up to council's determination through the procedure of the shoreline road allowance. So ensuring that it doesn't enter on crown lands, ensuring it doesn't enter onto water, ensuring that the municipality feels that there would be no more development through there. There's a couple of things that we have to consider, but that's why this bylaw got brought to the top, because of that discussion with the zoning.
Thank you, Ann. That's a good answer.
The only one.
Any other questions? If not, then I'll move this to a vote. All those in favor? And I'm in favor as well. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the council remuneration agenda. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Grant, and seconded by Councillor Manson. The Council for the Corporation of Municipality receives that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality of Calvin received and accepts the CAO report entitled, well, actually, before I do that, let me turn it over to the CAO for her report.
Just want to say that Mr. Giorno sends his regrets to left for a minute and he's unable to attend tonight. So he's not online, but everything that we did submit, as you know, is prepared in writing. And just for the moment, can't believe that he was here because he's not here.
Okay. Did you want to address the report or should I just read the rest?
As usual, yeah, read the resolution and then we discuss it.
All right, the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of Calvin receives that the Council for the Corporation of Municipality receives and accepts the CAO report entitled Council Remuneration, which includes a written report from the Integrity Commissioner.
Relating to the.
Yes. Thank you. Relating to the interpretation of the bylaw as well as the individual council member remuneration reconciliations paid out on pay period 1 in January 2025 for the fiscal year 2024 as prepared by staff. So are there any questions or comments on this report? None whatsoever?
I suppose
Oh, Councillor Grant.
we're on the resolution, right?
The first part of it, there's two.
The first part, there's two parts of the resolution.
Yeah, the second part is the travel, the mileage, because it's
Okay.
separate from
So
regular.
let me just,
pay.
guys, you had some comments on the first part. Okay. May I? Just like to highlight, one section out of the report that's, just thinks critical and important for us moving forward. And it's the second paragraph on the first page. If there's an issue of interpretation, then ultimately it should be raised, I'm reading directly from the report, it should be raised with council. Council can decide on its policy intentions and then amend the bylaw if necessary to ensure that that bylaw wording matches the policy intention. So I'm just highlighting the fact that the policy is fully within council's, sort of legal authority or jurisdiction. I would like to have discussions later and, about, amending the bylaw, but I think right now the discussion is on what's here in front of us at the table. And, I mean, I don't have an issue with it as it sits, except for one small thing. We'll see if anybody else has any other thoughts, but, is that, when you look at the actual meeting list, I'd like to add one more meeting to my list that is added to, some of the other counselors' lists.
You're the one who attended every single meeting.
I know, there's one more thing I'd like to, there you go, full attendance. April 23rd, blue boxes to residents at the landfill. If that is an acceptable meeting, I attended on April 23rd. I believe it is. If it is, if everyone approves this, I'd just like to add that to my list of meetings. And then, yeah, I'm okay with what's here personally, and I'd like to see the bylaw amended and changed. I think that's a different discussion. I think it's frustrating. I think the bylaw sucks. And I think it caused us a lot of confusion and trouble that was unnecessary, but, I'm ready to move forward. Thank you, my mistake.
So we can catch that meeting up in the next pay. Are you good with that?
Absolutely, yes. I just, if it's approved, then I just want it to be even with this council.
Any other questions or comments?
If I might?
Yes.
You're absolutely right. This bylaw did create, a lot of tension, a lot of heartache, a lot of unnecessary infighting, and it wasn't a very nice time, let's say that, very. The questions I posed to the integrity commissioner, who was very graciously provided, me with lots of time on a Friday night, after 5. And so each and every one of those questions are as a result of the issues that surfaced when, council members, put forward their list of meetings. So a lot, and as he says right out the gate, that this is a very poorly written bylaw and that we should be amending it so that this never happens again and everyone is clear. A lot of things. And so what my recommendation proposes is that based on the individual, comments that were made throughout this difficult time, I will bring forward a motion that a recommendation for a new bylaw that I believe captures everything that everyone at this table said. So for example, the definition of meetings was not in the bylaw, but when you go to the procedural bylaw, the definitions of meetings is there and basically said, for all intents and purposes, a meeting is defined as something when there's somebody there taking minutes, that's a meeting. a meeting isn't walking into the door and meeting with one or two people. So that is what our procedural bylaw, so I'll tie it back to things like that. Um, the mayor not being paid while he was off on sick leave. I interpreted the bylaw to say attend 10 meetings in order to receive the remuneration. The mayor didn't agree with that months later. So the integrity commissioner has said, it doesn't say don't pay him, it doesn't say pay him, so pay him until you have a bylaw. So now his remuneration that we caught up on for 2024 has now reinstated the pay for the 4 months or 3 months, 90 days that the mayor wasn't here. Meetings, so those kinds of things, and every one of the questions that were posed, and as you can see, there was a great number of them that came from you all collectively during that time in December. So I will do my best to capture what most people believe that this remuneration bylaw should read. And then not in the package tonight, but I'll bring it forward for the record in the next meeting. Was what I sent you today, the additional information as a result of Councillor Manson's question about the compounding of the CPI that you have and how that compares to staff. So that formally will come to the next meeting so that it can be in the record as having been questions posed, answers received, and how we deal with that coming forward. So next council meeting is 2 weeks away. I just want to remind that we're away, Mayor Ann and I, until Wednesday of next week, which means a new package goes out to you a day after I get back. So it won't happen for the next meeting because I won't have, it happened in March, the revised wording, and anything coming out of this meeting, actually, I won't be able to work on until I get back and deal with my emails and things. But there are, as you can see from that report from Mr. Giorno, a number of things that had the bylaw been drafted very differently with more explanation, we wouldn't have dealt with the things that we had to deal with in this
It was very vague.
very nasty time.
All right, so if there's no other comment or question, I call it to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? That motion is carried. The next motion is similar. Just need a mover and a seconder for the expenses. Councillor Morrison and Councillor Manson. Council for the Corporation of Calvin received a mileage claim for the council members' claims as submitted by them and transferred to the Calvin's expense claim forms by staff for the year 2024. And as per the remuneration bylaw authorizes these expenses to be paid. Discussion? Go ahead.
Well, I think it's an important issue because this is a non-taxable benefit that we receive for expenses. And in the past, I know it's been lumped in a group, and therefore hard to explain to the tax department that you're actually getting reimbursed for expenses.
Right.
So this was never part of payrolling mileage.
No, I'm talking about from the Conservation Authority. They just tell you that I get paid so much per meeting plus mileage, and then you put it on my thing saying I got that much money.
Oh, not at all.
No.
No, we're not paying you that money, so it doesn't go on your T4 from us.
Okay.
And mileage is not taxable.
I know.
So,
Well, it's a,
so if you've been claiming that to the government, you shouldn't have been.
yeah, no,
And nobody can give, and nobody has
Just
given
a meeting.
for
just a
that.
meeting.
Any other questions, comments? No? All those in favor of the resolution? I am as well, so that is carried. Agencies, boards and committees, North Bay Manawha Conservation Authority.
Yeah, I was delayed sending in a report, but at the last meeting, the membership of the board voted to have no increase to the general levy, which will affect the individual levies to the townships. So it's a accounting nightmare. I would say that we're not gonna have a levy, but it could be that we could have like a 0.1 or 0.01%.
Wow.
Because of the way the general, so there's supposed to be no increase to the general levy as well. The government, the provincial government has directed that Conservation Authority is not allowed to increase their assessments or fees for the 2025 year. So that, and then next meeting is tomorrow night.
Can I pose a question follow-up on that? We did receive a report previous council with the draft budget that had an increase in it, so they've stricken that?
We voted it down.
Oh, okay. Just
Wow.
because that's the last correspondence that we did.
Wait for you to spell.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I figured that'd be a little positive for.
I think so. I'm just waiting for the punchline where that part comes in, but it's.
Bad part. Meeting tomorrow night, but they
It
won't
sounds like-
reverse.
Interesting meetings. It sounds like democracy, I suppose, and members are saying they want something and staff are gonna have to do it, I guess.
Well, they moved money around.
Yeah, interesting.
Actually, they sold some property.
There you go. I think that staff always does. I take a little bit of an offense to that comment, what council tells them to do, but. So about, and Bill, I don't think you, Council Morton, I don't think you were late in sending the report in. It typically comes from the Conservation Authority.
Oh, no, not over the minutes.
Yeah.
So they haven't been approved.
No, that's
They won't be approved until tomorrow, but the
So you
report,
weren't-
I didn't type out a report, but I sent it after I got the
Yeah,
agenda.
so you weren't late in submitting it, so we don't usually get them until long after the meeting, and so
Yeah, but that's, you're talking the minutes.
the minutes here.
Yeah, so the minutes will be approved tomorrow night.
Yeah,
That's, it'll be in the minutes about the fact that we voted for the 0% increase.
All right, so moving on to the East Nipissing Planning Board. Councilor Grant, you've supplied us with the minutes for
The minutes are here. Yeah, it's not too much on the agenda. On last meeting. One,
I have a question about, I did read through the minutes and was interested in our resolution amending our bylaw or our planning.
yeah,
It didn't really, the minutes document the fact that we, had the amendment resolution from Calvin, but it really didn't say what was being done with it, what was the result.
yeah, if you want to answer that,
Sure.
yeah.
Through you, your worship, it's just given to them for information because they have to use our zoning bylaws and to do consideration of severance. So whenever there's a zoning bylaw amendment with Calvin, that information has to go to the East Nipissing Planning Board. They're also part of the notice period. So it's sent to them right away. They had 20 days to comment on it. And that was provided, would have been provided in the planning report that I provided. And then as information, it's sent back to them. So when they have consideration for severances, that they know that we've amended our zoning bylaw. So really, it's not there for their comment anymore. It's there for their information.
Okay.
but that being said. I know, and I can't speak to the detail because honestly, I don't remember what it said, but there was a resolution passed. I believe it was a question. And, I don't know if, they were supposed to forward something to Calvin. So I don't know when or if or what's happening with that, but I can't remember what it said and I don't have it in the.
You were-
I was at the meeting as well.
I can't remember what it said, Richard. but I didn't
So
want to make
they
stuff up.
looked at the resolution, asked what it's all about, which is strange because they would have received it and just told us months before and didn't comment on it when it was first sent to them. So this is now just an information package sent to them. And they said, well, they weren't in agreement with it, but it would already been passed. And we said that it had already been passed. And they said, one of the board members said that they were requesting the board chairperson to send a letter to Calvin stating what they felt were their concerns with that bylaw. But
Because there was confusion around, what the confusion around is it's come back, the confusion was around whether or not it affects the severances, like what, you know, whether or not the fact that you can obtain a permit affects the severance or not. That was some of the discussion.
Right.
And then I think this clarification maybe, you know, I don't know, on, you know, whether or not it affects whether we approve any severances or not. And there's some confusion around that.
Right, and they were going to send a letter, but they haven't, I guess. Well, obviously not. You guys haven't received it.
If they send a letter, I think there's a problem with the post office because my wife received a
Oh,
bill yesterday from,
Oh, I think they would send
it
it
would
by
think it
email.
would be, yeah.
Anyway, so we'll stay tuned, but there was a.
I think that's
there
what
was
we
a
do
resolution.
is stay tuned. We
Yeah, yeah.
passed the bylaw, it went through the period, the notice period.
But
It's,
that's a good question, Mr. Latimer, because, Councilor Latimer, because I forgot that detail, but there was a resolution.
right. By two,
I just see test information. So typically, when we would receive comment after the notice has been published, comment didn't come in, the bylaws now been passed. It would be the person lead of that department who would respond to that, and it wouldn't necessarily have to come to council because you are the person who's knowledgeable about how to respond to that. So are you expecting this to come back to council?
No, I'm not.
no,
I just was just mentioning it as a resolution that was coming to the municipality. I don't even remember exactly what it said, so it might just be a staff answer.
right.
The only back to council is if they're asking you to review and repeal the bylaw.
No, that is not
No,
what
I
they.
just can't remember the details, so I look like an idiot, but I don't know.
That's clarification.
It's probably, it was something about clarification.
When we, it'll be in.
I'll bring it back.
Okay.
next. If-
Sounds confusing. Clarification would be helpful.
Moving on to the
Thank you.
physicians. Oh, sorry?
Point of clarification, so if it comes in and it's addressed to council, we
Yep.
deal with it as we would appropriately deal with it if it were anyone else and just answer the question, or do you want to see the address? I'm assuming it's coming in addressed to council, I just have a feeling.
Yeah, here we're guessing a little bit, because we don't know what they're gonna say.
I'll wait till it happens.
Yeah.
Let's wait till it
It'll be
happens,
processed
and then,
come back to council.
I had the impression that they said, I would instruct the,
Secretary?
no, not the secretary, the chair, to send a letter to Calvin to express our concern. They didn't say to Calvin Council, they said to Calvin Township. So the impression that I had was, hi, we read this and we're concerned. That was what I expected the letter to, that's what the resolution was. So it wasn't a letter to say, we're asking you to repeal. It wasn't a letter saying that this is wrong. They just wanted to express a concern. And we'll just say, if the letter comes at all.
Concern noted. Move on.
The physicians recruitment committee has moved up their meeting, but I haven't been to one since our last council meeting, so there is no report at this point in time. OPP detachment board, Councillor Grant, anything?
there's nothing to report.
Okay. Canadian Ecology Center, I'm meeting with them for the first time on Friday of this week, and we'll be going over the budget, and I'm very interested to learn about this new board. The Ontario Ministry of Finance Budget Consultation Meeting in North Bay. That was a meeting called by the finance minister. The finance minister was not there. It was the executive assistant to the finance minister. And they asked each mayor or CEO of an organization to make a presentation to the finance minister about concerns in the provincial budget. I attended and made a written report, which I made public because I was told that everything that was done at this meeting was open to public. My report was basically entirely focused on Castle Home and long-term healthcare. As if you've seen the article in the Nugget, that, on January the 9th, that was basically the substance of the report I made to the finance minister. So that's all I have to say on that. Any, questions or, comments on the, reports?
If
No.
I might
Sure.
add something, so I received after it hit the paper, I did receive a call from MPP Vic Fidelli who posted that meeting, and he asked that I pass along that the article was, omitted, that the provincial government did contribute $15 million to that project, and that it wasn't all on the back for the municipal taxpayer.
There you go. Any other comments? Sure.
Relay that.
All right, so, move on, next item in the agenda, let me just, this page here.
Don't forget the motion.
I've lost page.
I should accept the agency report.
Yeah, thank you. So the next item, is a resolution to accept the agency board committee verbal reports and or minutes provided by the council members at that meeting. All those in favor? Oh, yeah, sorry, mover and a seconder. Councillor Latimer, Councillor Manson.
Oh, there is a second part that you didn't read the whole motion.
So now therefore be it resolved that the council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin accepts that agencies, boards, committees, verbal reports and or minutes provided by council members at that meeting, and that council members authorize Mayor Gould to attend the Ontario Ministry of Finance 2025 budget consultation meeting on December the 17th, 2024 in North Bay. And in doing so, authorize staff to add this meeting to the list of eligible meetings for the 2025 year compensation purposes. Any comments? No? All those in favor? That motion is carried. The next item is to move into closed. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Morton, Councillor Manson. Now therefore be it resolved, the council for the corporation and municipality of Calvin move into closed session at 7:14 to discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality. All those in favor? All right. So we are in, that is carried. And we are in closed.
Thanks for coming.